they can crossbreed? Written by Adventurous Run 6351. Of all the many and various xenospecies in the intergalactic congression, there are very few that the Council cannot or will not allow to join. For instance, several Deathworlder species who are deemed too dangerous to enable contact with, beings who are not socially, mentally or evolutionarily developed enough to engage in matters of planetary or universal scale, and those who can't leave their homeworlds or refuse to, such as the Osmosians of Osmar 1 through 5. Due to their intangible bodies made up of what can only be described as intelligent gases, they wouldn't risk long extended travel on a spacecraft for fear that if a breach were made, their bodies would be ripped apart. So far, the Council can only convince them to float upon ships for the purpose of travelling from one planet to the other. And even then, they stay in airtight containment units deep within the ship or environmental suits for the duration of the trip. Then there are the Placidars of Placi Prime, a xenospecies who resemble the rabbits of Earth, but are the size of large dogs that stand on their hind legs. Due to their nature as a prey species on their homeworld from over a dozen predatory animals, they are overly nervous about everything. Any attempt to get them to travel on spacecraft has caused severe stress to them, followed by stress-caused organ failure and death. Now, suppose any of the Placidars want to travel off-world. In that case, they have to be heavily sedated and kept that way until they make it to their destination, where they have to be accommodated for several weeks until finally acclimated into their new environment. 2 or more are usually brought for emotional support. Of course, no one can forget about the Maroli of Aquays. This world is composed of about 90% water and small archipelagos of land, home to trees that resemble the mangrove trees of the Earth. The native and dominant life of the planet are large humanoid fish that, according to humans, highly resembled the mystical mermaids of their planet. They looked uncannily similar to humans in their faces and upper bodies, but have the lower half of a fishtail and around the length and size of a large porpoise. Colours ranging from blues to greens, hair like seaweed, and fins on every part of the body to aid in swimming and navigating the tree roots of the sparse landmasses to look for food. They also possess glowing lure attachments on their faces to trick food into swimming closer. Despite appearing like fish, they had several mammalian-like traits, such as giving live birth, females having breasts that feed their young via nursing, and their genitals were on the inside of their bodies. They are more than intelligent and agreeable to work with. However, the problem of their biology remains. While the Meroli are able to come onto land to sunbathe, they can only stay out of water for a short time, and going onto a spacecraft is out of the question. They can't walk and would need full service to be moved around and roomed with accommodations to their need for water. While any spacecraft has enough water to help keep a crew clean and hydrated, the amount needed to help several merrily survive would be impossible. And due to the fact that their homeworld makes it impossible to land larger aircraft safely without sinking into the mire, making an outpost is out of the question, despite the Council's desire and even the Meroli's desire to join. In addition, the planet has come under fire for several planetary issues. Not only can anything but aquatic species live there full time, but the water has become unbalanced and almost poisonous to them without the right amount of mineral to freshwater ratio due to their planet's core pumping in the mineral seemingly being stopped out of nowhere. This has also killed many of their food sources and natural predators. With many of the Merolli dying as a result, they've had to resort to inbreeding to keep populations up. Just when the Merolli and intergalactic Congression thought their end would be slow, relief and help came in the form of the Deathworlders from the planet Terra, or as the occupants call it, Earth. After the events of their most devastating war yet, the one they call World War III, nearly 80% of their total planetary population had been wiped out. When the Terrans, as they say, got their act together, they went on a planet-wide search to find if any other humans had survived. One group they managed to find, and were mostly spared from the events of the war, was the native people of Baju in Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, much of the water they lived in, alongside animal and plant life, had been poisoned by radiation. So the more developed countries took them in from dying. However, they didn't want the people to be brought into the modern era and lose their old way of life through cultural genocide, like many other more developed human empires have done over and over again. Just when they thought they had hit a wall, a different path came about when the intergalactic Congression came to Earth and asked them to join. When the word of the Merolli, their predicament, and their planet reached their ears, the humans had a bright idea. So, using the newly acquired technology for space travel and intergalactic communication, the Terrans made contact with the dying world. They offered aid to help fix their world in exchange for the native Bajua to live on the planet, which had an atmosphere nearly identical to Earth. The Merolli agreed right away, and Earth made its move. First, they modified several cargo space shuttles into giant water tanks and filled them with seawater from one of the Terrans' newly acquired worlds, Terra 3, which is a world that was in the process of becoming an aggregate world in the production of fish, but had too much water and almost no land. They then filled the ships with thousands of non-radioactive freshwater fish and other sea life, making sure that these fish wouldn't kill off the remaining native species on the planet. From there, they sent 3 research vessels to find out why the core had stopped pumping out the needed minerals into the water, and found technology from a secretive xeno race known only as the Conquerors, which were known for quietly destroying and invading planets. Aquays was on their radar, and now the Conquerors were on the Terrans' radar. The tech was blocking off the natural opening, causing the planet and its people to die slowly. But even with the reopening, it would take years for the levels to return to normal. So they dumped the salty water and new food sources, allowing the planet to be brought back from the brink of death and repopulate the waters. As promised, the Baju people were allowed to coexist with them. Unsurprisingly, things were tense between the two species, with the Merolli hearing horror stories about Deathworlders like them from the other xeno races in the intergalactic Congression, and the Baju finding the fish-like alienness to be very off-putting and reminding them of the mystical monsters of their culture, the ones that were dragged down and drowned swimmers or unattended children. However, like most unsettling first experiences, things mellowed out over the course of a generation when the two groups began to feel more comfortable around one another. The Merolli found the humans interesting in the way they spoke, worked, sang, ate and loved. They even found it funny to watch them climb trees like the monkeys that they were described as resembling, or when they tried to swim. The bourgeois eventually found the merrily harmless when one of them saved a baby that had been swept away in a regularly occurring tropical storm, eventually returning with the baby when the sky cleared. The merrily found them unusual for wearing any clothing or coverings, since they wore nothing apart from jewellery made from whatever shiny coral, rock or gemstones they could find. Then the humans found them quite helpful. The merrily could chase down faster prey and easily navigate the routes underwater. The merrily found the same thing when humans could easily forage for other food sources on land, cook and prep food with spices, make medicine, create homes and boats, and even aid in the curing of disease and aid during childbirth, something that had caused many complications or death among the merrily. They were also far stronger than the merrily. Then the humans and the merrily eventually found one another to be quite beautiful. Both species looked generally the same, with only a few grand distinctions like gills, legs, skin, scales and so forth. Even other species in the intergalactic congregation couldn't help but be smitten by the sight of the merrily illuminated in the dark by its glowing lures and recordings of their melodic songs despite their vast difference in appearance. This allowed the two groups to grow closer, up to the point where they would regularly help move one another to different parts of the planet to find or follow food. The humans would make boats and load them with land crops, tools and building supplies that the merrily would then pull to a new destination where the humans would build a new shelter, and the cycle would continue. Whenever humans needed to stay underwater for longer periods of time, despite already being able to hold their breaths for several minutes, the merrily helped by making air bubbles. By using their gills to pump air into their mouths, they would coat it in a mucus-like substance that was then placed over the human's head, allowing them to breathe for several minutes longer. And of course, all this mutual aid to one another made some humans and merrily form closer bonds and relationships. Of course, I refer to interspecies marriage. Despite the many different reasons why procreation shouldn't be possible in terms of distance, evolution and biology, life somehow found a way. The outcome of this interspecies crossbreeding birthed something that was classified all its own, the merrolin. The merrolin, a cross of the merrily and humans, was a perfect mixture of the two, whether it came from one parent or the other. They had many traits of their merrily parent: full body scales, facial lures, seaweed hair, hand webbings, gills, a short tail and so forth. But they got legs, an upright posture, different scale colour variations and more dexterity from their human parents. Able to walk on land and swim in the sea, they were the perfect combo. Sometimes they were described as looking like frogs to a certain degree. However, they weren't half as fast in the water as other merrily and were wobbly on land. They were also unable to run fast or climb trees, unlike humans. However, they did stand as a testament to the two groups' union. When the existence of this new crossbreed surfaced in the intergalactic congregation, scientists from all over the galaxy rushed to understand how two Xenos could procreate, and also pondered if other species could procreate with Terrans. When asked, the Terrans would laugh and jokingly offer to let them find out, in a suggestive tone. This also gave the Council hope that the merrily would become part of the intergalactic congregation through the merrolin. With this new species able to stay out of the water for hours or days at a time, they could live long periods of time in spaceships with little worry, only needing to rehydrate every so often. However, as of now, that was something for the future, as many Merolin were still children, and their numbers are sparse even among the humans and Meroli, who only numbered in the hundreds. It would take time for a delegate to come about to represent the planet, and waiting was easy to do. Hearing of the remarkable success of the revitalization of Aquays and the cohabitation of the bourgeois people and Meroli, the people of the Earth decided to help speed up the process of a future delegate for the planet, which was also prompted by a sizable donation from the Council. Using the gifted money and other xenotechnology, a floating school was built on the planet where the two less advanced peoples could learn about the wider galaxy. The school was not only for the Merolin, but for the Meroli and humans living there, and attendance to the school was completely up to the parents and the children themselves for the opportunity to learn language, math, social skills, other xenospecies, politics, and much more. They also allowed the adults to come and learn as well, if they chose to. The school was not only designed to float, but was half open to the water to allow the aquatic residents easy access. In addition, it allows for an easy landing on the planet, and for any non-aquatic xeno to interact with the natives easily. Truly, this experiment, brought on by the emergence and necessity of two radically different groups, showed the wider galaxy that the terrifying Deathworlders of Terra Prime weren't as bad as they seemed, and things would only get better from here on.